I know you guys have been dying for Thursday nights. Thursday nights is our thing. And here we are yet again. If this is your first time tuning in live to the digital age, it's your boy Karen Rose, the hostess with the mostest. And you guys know that we have the most amount of fun on this show. Not only are we learning about everything with respects to the online space, but we are also taking notes. We're having fun. We got our drinks. So whether it's grapefruit juice or water or something a little bit stronger, to kind of ease some of that tension of, with everything happening in the world, just make sure you have those beverages, because tonight's one of those nights. And I know you guys hear me say this every single night. I mean, every single Thursday, that, this is an episode you can't miss. And I mean, everything was handcrafted so that you really can't miss one of these episodes, because we have a lot to dive into, and everything that we talk about only helps you do better in your business. So what's tonight about? Tonight is about one of the biggest buzzwords since COVID happened. And that buzzword is e-commerce. You've been hearing about it. I'm sure you guys have heard that word just a little bit, especially since COVID started. So tonight, we're going to dive into that world. But before we start anything, you guys know how we do. I need you guys to drop hearts. I need fire. I need fireworks. I need you to jump in the comments. Let me know let me know if you're here. Let me know where you are from. If you're watching from Jamaica, Bermuda, Grenada, Barbados, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, wherever you guys are watching from, let me know in the comments and big up your whole country, right? So, who do we have in the chat tonight? So first and foremost, let's give a big shout out to the first in the live, which is Adana, the bossiest live startup ever. Hey, we try in the digital age. We got to keep you entertained, otherwise you guys would just tune out. We got Thustin Benny. Thustin, what's going on tonight, bro? We have Josanna John. Where is Josanna? I was worried for a minute, but she's locked and listening. Listen, when I say we are coming to drop gems, we ain't gonna stick. We might be at 30 seconds late, but we try not to. We try to keep it right at 8 o'clock, But I'm glad you're inside. So who else we got in here? We got, the Caribbean Power Lunch. Big up you guys. I love what you guys are doing anytime I see you. We got Ashton Mills. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the fireworks. Josanna John. We have North Carolina in the building. We got Kevin Valley, Trinidad. We got Hannah, Trinidad. How you doing? Elroy, thank you for joining us tonight. Nikisha, how you doing? Lorraine. Hello, Miss Lorraine. How are you? We have Kira Mohammed. How are you? We have Jerion Barataria. I love it. We got Shane, Thrustin. We got Simone. Listen, keep letting me know that you guys are in the building. I love it. We got Colin Benjamin from Antigua. As you guys see, oh man, we have St. Lucia in the building. As you guys see, we have the entire Caribbean in this session. And we are definitely not going to disappoint. So without further ado, let us introduce the guest, the honorable guest for tonight. Let's give a big, warm digital age welcome to the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, Mr. Chris Burns. Chris, how are you doing, bro? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hyped, man. I'm good.
It's like a massive introduction. I'm so yeah, that's awesome.
Well, you are one of the most important people in the entire Caribbean right now, so we can't give you anything less.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. First and foremost, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come out and talk to our audience. Again, we're live across almost every Caribbean region right now. Thank you for taking the time and just giving us your knowledge, your gems that you're going to drop tonight. I know you are an extremely busy man, so this means a lot to all of us.
No, I really appreciate the invitation, and it's amazing to be here. And now is the perfect time to do something like this.
Yes.
The last few months, several months now, actually,
Yes.
time is passing us by. But it's this is the time to talk about this, right? We as a business have been around and talking about this for a number of years, but it is more relevant now than ever before.
Have you? How is your business grown this year? Like, what is the interest in your business? How does that look this year?
Yeah, well, from an FAC perspective, First Line Ecommerce has just been growing astronomically over the last few months. So we were always busy. We've been part of the e-commerce and digital economy of the Caribbean for a number of years now. But the current sort of pandemic situation, we have our influx of new clients over the last 5-6 months has grown 400 to 500%.
I could just imagine.
Yeah, the region is just alive with interest in e-commerce right now, and rightly so. Like we're in a situation where nobody expected. I was actually planning to be busy with another side of our business this year, but because of what's happened, we are just we're growing, we're adding people, we're just at a point where we've never seen before.
Right.
And it's amazing to see how businesses and technology partners have stepped up over the last 5 months.
I love it. And we're going to be diving into so much information tonight. But first, Chris, before we start, we got to kick off with the digital age intro. So give us 30 seconds and we're going to cue up that digital age intro now.
Sure.
All right, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, all right, you guys, if this is your first time tuning in, what we like to do is we like to give you guys a rundown of what to expect tonight. That way you guys, know to keep it locked in and stay tuned for the entire episode, but you guys have an idea as to some of the topics that we're going to be touching on tonight. So here is the rundown of tonight's show. So we're going to be talking about the landscape of e-commerce in the Caribbean. We're then going to be diving into an analysis of companies that are doing e-commerce. We're going to show it to you guys live. Chris is going to walk through, what he likes, what he sees, and that will allow us to get some tips, seeing it in action, so that we can now go check out those same websites and kind of get a feel for, if we are, now starting an e-commerce business, or you're taking your offline business and you're putting it online and you're trying to do e-commerce, you guys will know, what type of things to kind of have in place. And there's no better person to kind of break that down for us than Chris Burns himself. Last but not least is going to be the live Q&A session. Chris, I hope you are ready for that Q&A session, because those questions are going to be coming hot and heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. So, let us cue up the clock and let's get started. So, we got 20 minutes to dive into the landscape of Caribbean e-commerce. And the clock has started. So, Chris, let us kick this off. First things first, let's let's let people know if this is the first time they have ever heard of First Atlantic Commerce. Just give us a breakdown of, what First Atlantic Commerce is and what you guys do over there.
Sure. Well, hopefully it's not the first time you've heard of us, but
I hope.
so from FAC's perspective, First Atlantic Commerce is what we call an e-commerce payment gateway. So our job is to provide an interface between somebody's website and the credit card infrastructure to allow for real-time authorization and settlement of transactions from your website. So when somebody comes to your website, they come to your payment page and they enter their credit card details. Our software is sitting on the back end of your website to be able to route those transactions, to be able to capture the funds from those credit cards and be able to settle to your bank account. So that's ultimately what we're designed to do.
Right.
So we as a business have been around for 22 plus years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're a Bermuda-based business. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of a much larger group of companies.
Right.
But we're a small software company that operates within that. So we as a gateway have spent many years connecting to all the different banks in the Caribbean.
Right.
So that's First Citizens or Republic Bank or RBC, CIBC, Scotiabank. We have all that infrastructure on the back end. So
Right.
whoever you want to bank with and have your account set up with, we already have those connections on the back end. So our job is to provide a very simple interface for your
Right.
website to connect with us and be able to take those transactions.
Perfect.
And that's what we've been doing for a long time.
Perfect. And I when I take a look at your website, I noticed one of the things that you guys specialize in too is the fraud solutions. Can you give us a little breakdown of what you guys do on that front?
Yeah, sure. So we, for years we've been working with all the tools that the card associations have provided, like Visa, MasterCard, Amex. So whether it be the expiry date or CVV, so the 3 digits on the back of the card, or
Right.
address verification if you're taking cards from the North America mostly. So we've been providing that for a number of years,
Right.
and then that was great for a while.
Yeah.
And then we also support 3D Secure, which is the verified by Visa MasterCard secure code. So that is basically like an online password for your credit card.
Right.
So we've been supporting that for years and years. And then, as e-commerce was growing, people were saying, okay, well, what else do you have? And we were it's like, okay, because fraudsters are very sophisticated, right?
Right.
They're very smart. They don't have to play by the rules, so they will find really intricate ways to defraud you. So
Right.
we thought about building our own anti-fraud system for a while, and for a short while, and realized how complicated it was. And then we decided we were going to partner with the company to provide that as part of our platform.
Right.
So we partnered with a company called Count out of the US.
Right.
So Count with K. And they are, the anti-fraud platform for people like Spotify, Chase Payment Tech in the US, white label their system.
That's a good company.
Yeah, I mean they're a hugely sophisticated platform, like very complicated on the back end,
Yeah.
like machine learning, artificial intelligence, but on the front end, from a user perspective, very easy to use and very flexible. So the idea is basically they want to provide you with the ability to feel comfortable to sleep at night, selling to the world without locking everything down so tightly that you're rejecting good transactions. So the system is a rules-based system that basically allows you to set up a bunch of different rules, like if you don't want to accept transactions from a certain country, or if you've had problems with somebody, a particular card type. It can do device fingerprinting, so it will tell you exactly what device somebody's purchasing from, whether it's an iPad or an Android or a PC.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and also proxy piercing software. So if somebody's saying, well, I'm in Trinidad and I'm buying 16, flat screen TVs,
Yeah.
but actually they're in Vietnam, it will be able to break through all of that and be able to tell you whether it thinks it's a good or a bad transaction or not. So yeah, so that's something we invested in and put in part of our platform. So, basically you
Yeah.
get to a point where you feel comfortable with not just opening up your business domestically, but selling it to the world as well.
Right, and scaling it from there.
Yeah.
You made an interesting point, and I need to kind of highlight this, right? You said that you were in business for 22 years with e-commerce, right? So
Yeah.
are you meaning to tell me that e-commerce was happening before 2019?
I am actually. So that was the funny thing. Like we had historically our first partnership in the Caribbean was with Scotiabank
Right.
nearly 2 decades ago. So it was
Wow.
available. It was available. It was, the technology was very different then.
Right.
Internet accessibility was very different. We're talking dial-up probably back then.
Yeah.
So, wait for the tone and all the rest of it. And, as a business at that point, we were doing more in probably like North America and Europe and places like that. And, there were some forward-thinking businesses in the Caribbean that wanted to get online, and, we supported that. And then suddenly there was this explosion of access to the internet.
Right.
And so we sort of changed tack and said, okay, well, there's a lot of gaps in the Caribbean where people, they have some great ideas and they need the technology to be able to support it and get
Yeah.
online and start. So we changed direction as a company and said, okay, we're going to support this. So we
Right.
we certified all the different banks. We started with a lot of the telcos and ISPs, so like Digicel, Flow, B Mobile, and as they were rolling out better networks from an accessibility of internet perspective, and then suddenly there was a huge change, and there were a lot of businesses that were coming online. So
Yeah.
it's funny because people, even 20 years later, people go, I didn't realize we could do this. It's like, okay.
We're in
you know,
2020 and people are still saying, I can't believe we could do this.
yeah, and we've been doing it for 2 decades. So it's definitely available, and our job is to make it as easy as
Easy as
possible
possible.
for companies to get online and start selling.
Perfect. So what I want to do is, as simple as this sounds, one of the questions in 2020, I mean, I still can't believe I get asked this, but at the same time, I understand that, you know what, in the Caribbean we have been a bit behind, and we don't have a lot of the public education happening as it should. So I'm still very patient with people that pose this question to me. But can you give us your definition or your breakdown of what is e-commerce? Because to most people right now, e-commerce is this thing that you have to do. 2020 has hit. COVID has
Yeah.
hit. Everybody's saying, your roti shop, I can't order it online, but you have to be
Yeah.
e-commerce ready. So what is e-commerce?
So e-commerce, you're right. It means a lot of different things to different people, and there's a number of different ways to address it. So, and it depends on how easy you want to make it for your customers.
Right.
So, if you're a business today, a website is a must, right?
Right.
You have to have a website, and websites, but the importance of websites are different now. So, you roll that back a few years, and the website was everything from an online e-commerce business perspective. But now that you fold in social media, websites become this anchor, right? Where your business, just puts your basic information. This is who we are. This is what we do, and it's quite static.
Right.
When you fold in social media now as well, social media is really where it's the constant updates of what you're doing,
Right.
doing it, how amazing your business is, and now it's become commerce enabled as well. So,
Right.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, there's all ways to be able to feed in ways to purchase what you're promoting as well.
Right.
And so you need a website to be legitimate, right? So
Yeah.
people, if you don't show up on the first page of Google, you're
It's
kind of
probably
dead.
probably a sham business anyway.
Exactly. Who goes to the second page, right? So you need to have that base where
Yeah.
people can say, okay, they got a website, I can see what I like, and then it depends on the type of business that you have on where people purchase. And so you have, let's take supermarkets for example now. So before, a supermarket's website used to be, yeah, we're a supermarket, this is where you can find us, come shop with us, here's where you park.
Right.
Now, in the current situation, it is, okay, well, this is everything that I sell, here's our entire product, put it in a cart, and we'll either deliver to you, or you can order online and you can drive up and somebody will put the bags in the back of your car.
Right.
And you know and that scenario now, like, even somebody that runs a payments company, even in Bermuda, we were, I would still go into the supermarket and buy everything and put it in the cart and walk out.
Right.
But the current situation has forced me to shop online, and realize how actually easy that is, and then just drive up and have somebody put it in my car, and that's
Right.
the mind shift, right? Like, so now
Correct.
I don't have to spend 2 hours of my day going to the supermarket, maybe dragging around my kids that don't want to be
Don't
there.
want to be there.
Yeah, and trying to grab all sorts of other things, but then just drive up, put it in, and drive off, and that's a great experience.
Right.
From a supermarket's perspective, the more that they can operate into that sort of model, the more cost effective it becomes for them as well.
Correct.
So,
Because you
and
can now
then,
service more people.
absolutely, yeah, 100%. And like, people will suddenly see more products that they might not have seen if they're sort of rushing through the aisles and things like that. So people
Correct.
tend to buy them. And then if you look at, every other store, like click and collect over the last type to, whether you're a supermarket or a hardware store or, a clothing center, when we're forced into these situations where we're not allowed to be outside or go into buildings, or we have
Right.
to wait outside 6 feet apart, and there's only 3 people allowed in a shop at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
To create this experience that still allows you to sell to everybody, that is a better experience than having to stand outside in 90-degree heat with a mask on and waiting for several people to leave.
Upset when they don't want to respect the 6 feet space.
100%. So but it creates all this opportunity, because a brick and mortar business is limited to its operating hours.
Yes.
So let's say you do 8:30 to 5 or whatever it is.
And that's not when you shop online, right, Chris?
No, never. Too busy at work, obviously.
Right.
But the experience being that, okay, now I'm not limited to this, my physical brick and mortar presence and all the expense that goes with that. So if you have this scenario where, okay, I'm renting this space, I'm only open certain hours a day, and it relies on people coming there physically or having to pass by there.
It's
And
too
now,
much friction. Too much friction.
and now you have a business that could sell 24/7, 365, and generate money for you while you sleep. That's a business. Otherwise, you're basically an employee before that, right? And that's what you need.
That is so key, and I'm glad you broke it down like that, because let me tell you my favorite emails. My favorite emails happen around 2 o'clock in the morning. I would have fallen asleep. I would have got up, probably had to go take a glass of water, and I just happened to check my phone, see an email, and see new order at 12 o'clock at night. There is no greater feeling than waking up in the middle of the night and seeing you just got paid to sleep.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's exactly what we all need to strive towards.
Yes.
I'm not saying don't get rid of your brick and mortar business, because it's important, because people still want to have that experience.
But that's the thing. It's changing to the experience, and
Yeah.
not just transactional. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you need to be able to cater for both.
Right.
Like you move, and even if you just have a static website where people can, view everything they like and do the research, and maybe able to, and then come to your store, right?
Yeah.
And that's important too. So you need to be able to cater for that market as well. But there's a whole couple of generations now that don't care for that, right? And we just want to buy. We want to buy it online. We want to deliver it to.
We don't have time. We don't have the time.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't, or we don't care either. We just want it. We want it when we want it, and we want it delivered to our house. And
Nothing wrong
within
with
a
that.
short period of time.
Nothing wrong with that.
If we don't like it, we send it back. So,
Correct.
and that's actually, that's an important point as well. So when people were saying, well, the Caribbean's used to ordering from Amazon,
Right.
or eBay or whatever it is, and they're great websites. Don't get me wrong, they're amazing. But the reason they're amazing is because their customer service is amazing, and that's the bit that we have to get our head around as a region, to say, okay, fine, we have really good products and really good services that we can deliver, but we have to garner the trust of everybody else with our customer service.
I love it.
Super important.
I love it. We have to garner the trust of our audience, people. Keep that in mind when you're building out your platforms. Chris, I wanna get into, when I'm teaching or talking about e-commerce, right?
Right.
One of the things that I do is I try to simplify the concept of e-commerce and what you need for e-commerce, so that the regular Joes know, or at least can try to wrap their mind around e-commerce. Because I think what happens is, when we do have an e-commerce seminar, we hear from the experts, and the experts super complicate the entire process that turns off a lot of people from even setting foot into it. So what I want to touch on, right, is these are the three things I break it down to, and let me know if I'm in the right path, or if there's anything else that you would add to that. So for me, the three keys to e-commerce is, one, your customers having a payment mechanism like a Visa card or Visa debit card to actually be able to pay you online, whether that's through your website or through a digital invoice. The second key to e-commerce would be having a payment processor. So whether that is First Atlantic Commerce, Buzz Payments, WePay, PayPal if you're using PayPal. Second key. And the third key has been having an e-commerce ready website.
Yeah.
So am I missing anything? And if I'm missing anything, give it to us.
Yeah, so I think you're spot on there, and the one bit you're missing is the bank, right? So, and we're always, when we talk to people, we're always talking if they're ready to go online, we think payments first, and that's not just because it's because the practicalities of that in the Caribbean are different, right? So,
yes.
We've talked about this before, right? I've seen an advert for, a website building software and shopping cart, and I thought it was amazing, and I bought it, and I built a really beautiful website, and then I've gone to look at the payments piece, and I found out, they only accept authorized stuff, which only works in the US. So suddenly, your whole business folds because your payments piece doesn't work, and that's why we say that, right? So it's not to just promote us; it's just if your business is going to run, and we're not the only payment gateway in the world, but you need to figure out that back end, because it doesn't matter how good and how amazing your website is and how good your marketing is and driving affiliates and all the rest of it. If you can't get paid, you're done. So like look at the back end. So, so we have spent time working with companies like WebGold in Trinidad, who have built plugins for like Magento, WooCommerce, 3D Card, Shopify. We work with WePay, we work with BuzzPay, and to power the payments part of it, right? So
Right.
say, okay, find out first before you
First.
invest that time, energy, and money. If you've got any connectivity on the back end to accept the payments, and then the other important part of it is the bank. So we as FAC, we connect to all the e-commerce acquiring banks pretty much in the Caribbean. So you need to apply for what's called an e-commerce merchant account with your bank.
Right.
And that purpose of the e-commerce merchant account is basically to receive the funds that um, you've paid for online, that
Right.
your customers have paid for online. And that's different from a corporate account. It's different from a checking account. It's different from a point of sale merchant account. It's a specific account that is designed to receive your online payments.
Right.
And there is a specific team in each bank that deals with that. So if you go into your local branch and ask somebody, hey, I
Happens
want to
all the
open the,
time.
they're probably not going to know what you're talking about, and that's not their fault.
Right.
It's just there is, certain people that are trained up in each bank to deal with that. So
Right.
that's part of the service that we provide. And if people listening, want to email you, and you can email us, or you can email FAC directly. We can put you in touch with specifically the right person to apply for that. And I think that's some of the frustration that people have had over the years is that, and, I've heard stories before where people will go into a bank that we work with and somebody said, oh, we don't do e-commerce. And we've been doing e-commerce for that bank for 10 years. So, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Correct.
And we can help do that. And and I think we talked about this before. We can supply you with a list of which person and which bank you need to speak
To
to,
deal with.
because and there is a process to go through, and
Just like
you know
getting
the,
rent in a place and furnishing it, there's a process.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or if you're applying for a mortgage for your house, or you want to apply for a credit card, or whatever it is, there's still a process to go through.
Right.
And we as a software company and the banks, as a financial institution, we're constantly working on trying to make that easier for people.
Right.
And to that point, we get a lot of people that say, well, why can't we use PayPal, or why can't we use Stripe, or why can't we, whatever. And there's a lot of reasons why you can, and like the connectivity is not there from a software perspective.
Right.
The will from those companies is not there to do it because our markets are not big enough for them. So
Right.
PayPal, Stripe, a lot of them, they don't care about our region because it's not big enough.
It's not big
Like
enough. Yeah.
but my counter to that is you don't need them. We have everything we need domestically to be able to take our payments online, to grow e-commerce. We don't need these big North American companies to make that happen. And it's just there's little time and energy that we need to do that. And why
You're preaching.
yeah, and we talked about this the other day as well. So why do we want our money to flow out of the country to come back into the country? Like,
Correct.
why should we promote our own local businesses and financial institutions to make this happen? Because all the pieces are there.
Yes.
We don't need PayPal. We don't need Stripe. We don't need whoever else you have read about in North America. We have everything we need locally.
I thank you for saying that. And I wanna touch on two things before we move on. The point about thinking payments first. Let me give you guys a real life example, because this is what happens. This is a common situation that happens all the time, right? Let me paint the picture. You go and you decide, okay, I am going to make a website and you look for, what is the easiest platform to build your website on? Wix is going to come up. Squarespace is going to come up. When you think about the easiest platform for products, Shopify, those things come up. But the problem is that when you are getting that content online, the point that you're forgetting is you're getting it usually from somebody who is in America, and that is their perspective because their market is completely different from us. So the issue that happens for us that people run into is they run hot and sweaty. They take out a subscription on Wix or on a Squarespace or what have you, and then you spend time. You spend a month, 2 months building out this entire platform, and you start driving traffic to the platform. You've signed up for PayPal because PayPal is easy, just needs an email. You integrate it, and then all of a sudden, you make the first sale, or maybe I've had a guy had about 10,000 US in his account for 2 years and could not figure out how to get it out. Right? Like insane. So you have 10,000 US in your PayPal account, and then you realize, wait a minute, how do I get this money out the account? So the point of thinking payments first is a very important point for everybody to think about.
Yeah, and there are platforms that have been designed for local use, right? So WePay, you mentioned WePay before, good example. Figaro is a great example. Yes. And what's really impressive is that there is a lot of local talent that can develop your website for you. And create a plugin to FAC, for example. We have a list of trusted companies that we work with over the years that can build it for you cost effectively. Shopify is, we have a bunch of people that use Shopify as well, and it's a huge platform, right? And and you mentioned Wix. I mean, we're talking to Wix at the moment. We're trying to figure that out with them right now. And Squarespace, again, all these ones, but, it depends what you need. And, part of that process and figuring out what you need is important when you apply to the banks too. So you say, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. This is my vision. Because a lot of it is entrepreneurship right now. Yeah. And that's created by necessity. Right. Because people are either losing jobs or switching focus or whatever that is, and that is the mother of all necessity, right? Like, so you say, okay, well, this is, I was doing this job before and I didn't really enjoy it. I've always had a passion for something else, and now I have this opportunity maybe to pursue that and build it and sell it and promote it to the world. And we want to move away from this self-fulfilling prophecy that it's too complicated and too expensive, because it's not. We have all the pieces that we need to be able to make that happen. And yes, there is a process to go through, especially on the bank side. But there are companies like ours that are designed to help you through that. And we know what that is, and it's a question of when you get these bank forms and you say, okay, well, they're asking for a whole lot of stuff, and if you can dedicate a couple of hours to filling them out and sending them back and providing the information, or if you don't have the information, like you're a startup, you don't have 3 years financials, okay, that's fine. Like the bank's gonna view that for what it is. Don't let that put you off pursuing the opportunity. And there's been this story that the banks don't want to do e-commerce, and that's just not true. I speak to all of them every day in, day out, and especially now, they're all their focus and energy is in e-commerce right now. And because we don't know what this is going to be. Okay, we've had this strange 4 or 5 months. And we're starting to open up our economies again slowly and safely, but what happens in the fall, and maybe we get a second wave of this, and we have to go back to shelter in place and all the rest of it. So now we want to get away from this panic of switching to e-commerce and all the rest of it to a seamless transition to, okay, fine, okay, everybody's back at home again, but our businesses can still operate.
Yes.
We've done our homework, and we've done everything we need to do beforehand.
Perfect. Chris, we are going to take a quick 1-minute break, and when we come back, we are going to be diving into some of the businesses and websites that Chris thinks is doing e-commerce well, to give you guys an idea and a visual of, just some things that you guys could look at when you guys are starting your e-commerce journey, all right? So stick around. If you need to go and take a drink, be back in exactly 1 minute.
Okay.
Stay connected and entertained with broadband bundles designed for you. With Flow starter and advanced plans, you can enjoy faster speeds to stream more of what you love. Get free access to the best shows, series, and movies with HBO Go, and connectivity on the go with free Flow Wi-Fi. Packages start from as low as $295 and no contract required. Visit discoverflow.co to sign up today. Flow, keeping you connected.
Sharing your goals, helping you find your place in the world. Eastern gratitude, God's holding your hand, leading the way, here for your needs, making sure that you succeed. Eastern's lending a hand, Eastern together, we're leading the way. Eastern Credit Union.
Perfect. So I hope you guys got your refreshments and you guys enjoyed that first segment. Listen, if Chris dropped some knowledge for you guys, I need some energy. We need some fireworks. We need some hearts. We need some firecrackers. We need some flames. Drop it in the chat. Let me know that you guys are here inside. I'm seeing so many of you across the 5 platforms that we are broadcasting from. Big shout outs to our sponsors. Buzz Media, thank you for supporting the journey. Flow, love you guys. Again, thank you for supporting the journey. And Eastern Credit Union. All right. So now we want to switch gears. Now we want to, we spoke about, e-commerce, what it is, some of the things that we need, some of the things to look out for. But now we want to give you guys a visual of some of the platforms that is doing e-commerce pretty well. So we're going to give you guys a breakdown, but then you guys can also go online, check out their websites, and just get a feel for, what they're doing on their platforms and see what you could probably model after them into your business. All right? Perfect. Chris, you ready?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let me make sure I'm getting the right one for you.
No problem.
Start sharing. So hopefully you can see Cool Market here.
All right. Hold on. Yes, we see it. All right. Okay. So walk us through. What's going on here?
Yeah. So I'm trying not to play favorites with any of our customers right now, but from our perspective, what's been really interesting over the last 6 to 12 months is the birth of marketplaces within the Caribbean. So there are like micro and small medium businesses within the Caribbean, and
right.
They may not have the wherewithal to, create, the full-blown e-commerce experience, like the website and the banking. And historically, those merchants have been, those type of companies have been excluded from being able to sell online.
Right.
The banks have been, had a change of mindset in terms of, historically we didn't want to support these types of merchants, but now we understand like the risk and the need for these types of businesses within there. So Cool Market is a client of ours that's based out of Jamaica.
Right.
And they have invested heavily in creating a platform that allows lots of sort of micro and SME clients to be able to sell individual products on their
Right.
website. So they've created a platform that makes it very easy to sign up as a as a merchant and sell your products and or services on the website. And so whether it's eggs or Doritos or whatever it is that you're selling locally. And what's good about this as well is that if you are like what they call diaspora, so there's lots of Caribbean people that are living in other parts of the world
Right.
that have cravings for what for home.
Right. Correct.
Whatever it is, the food and all the rest of it, and they want to be able to get that back. They want to get that where they are, and platforms like this really make that possible, right? So you can order locally, you can order internationally. The website is very easy to use. It's very easy to sign up as an individual vendor. They have all the right sections in terms of who they are, what they do,
Yeah.
customer service, terms of use, order cancellation, and all these type of things. I can't overstate how important like this section of the website is as running as an online business, because and that's not just from a customer service perspective, but from a anti-fraud perspective as well.
Letting
So,
people know that you're verified and what payments you can accept.
yeah, and also what your cancellation policy is or what your refund policy is.
Gotcha.
And when you actually do all of this, that it's an opt-in for cardholders, right? So like you have to physically check a box to say I accept the terms and conditions or the
Right.
privacy policy, and privacy policies are super important now as well. With everything that's happening with that around the world, and these guys are doing really interesting things around bank transfers or financing and things like that, which and in the current environment is really important. So and marketplaces are popping up all over the place. So
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of Shopgrade, which is based out of Trinidad,
Right.
from a company called which basically are we're looking at this and saying, okay, well, how do we, whatever it is, whether it's clothing or candles or masks, now like
You can get it here.
yeah, you can get it here and you can get it delivered, and it's in local currency, and there's displaying the different vendors that are involved within that, and it's important.
This is really good.
Yeah, you can go into the different pieces, and what I like about these sites as well is that they're very well designed. They render properly for mobile, which is really important. So I have this conversation with somebody about the price of phones, right?
Yeah.
And smart, and you'll be super familiar with this. Like,
Yeah.
they can be very expensive, but the counter argument is, okay, we live our entire life
On our
off the
phone.
phone. Yeah, whether it's we're messaging, we're reading emails, we're watching Netflix, it's our calendar. So you would spend an
It's an
extraordinary
investment. It's an investment.
Yeah, exactly. You'd spend an extraordinary amount of money on a TV, a big screen TV, without thinking twice about it. But you can't take that everywhere with you, and it doesn't run your life.
Correct.
So if you don't render your business to mobile, it's a bad investment, because
Heck.
everybody living their lives off 5 inches of screen.
Even Google downranks your websites if you are not mobile friendly.
Yeah. And that's the nature of what we do now. And then if we look at, another favorite of mine recently has been, Food Drop in Trinidad.
Yeah.
And this is it's not just playing catch up with things like Uber Eats and all the rest of it that the rest of the world has.
Mm-hmm.
you lived in Canada. You're used to a certain level of ease of use of
Correct.
applications.
Yeah.
So we want to promote that same experience in our part of the world.
Yeah.
But now, more importantly than ever, we need these types of services. Like, okay, if you're stuck at home and you have a mandate that you can't leave your home, these types of services are super important. Whether it is, getting your favorite Wendy's or whatever it is,
Yeah.
you want to be able to do this, and it's going to be more important than ever because people are, the whole economy is going to change.
Correct.
Even when we're allowed to go back to our offices, a
It's going
lot
to
of
be
people
completely
not gonna,
different.
they're probably not going to go.
Right.
Like, look at our company. Probably half the amount of people will probably permanently work from home.
Right.
I've seen multiple, press releases from people like Salesforce or, Siemens or whoever it is, just saying, okay, we're actually, from now on, people can work from wherever they want.
Correct.
Yeah, and countries are taking advantage of that. So, like, Barbados, Bermuda, where we are, we just issued travel visas for people to be able to work remotely from our countries for a year.
That's
Um,
insane.
yeah, so we're saying, okay, well, as long as you're not competing for a job here, you can come and live here for a year and
Right.
work remotely for whatever company you want to, and
Right.
that's, it's a totally different take on what we do.
That's very
And
interesting.
yeah, and it's so I think and it's not a temporary thing. I think we're now over the last 4 or 5, 6 months, where every company has realized that dragging people into an office is not essential. We can
Correct.
run our companies from anywhere. We more than ever, we realize that companies like this that can deliver and doesn't require people to congregate in a restaurant or whatever it is, are
They're
vitally
needed.
do.
I think the other thing too is coming from Canada and having the majority of my friends still over there and coming to Trinidad, especially around the carnival time. Services like food drop, services like this promote tourism in a way because
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of the concerns my friends have. So when they come, sure, they're going to have their place to stay, right? They've organized that, no problem. First problem they have is, okay, well, how are we going to get around the island to and from events or to the beach or whatever? So then you would have to Uber coming into Trinidad. You would have to hire a driver and, pay whatever their exorbitant prices are. So the fact that now, we have ride sharing apps, that's one of the biggest check marks off of concerns for people coming into any country right now. Think Airbnb, that service as well. And then when you have services like a food drop, again, it takes the ease of stress off of people coming and saying, you know what, well, I have to come there on business, but maybe I don't feel like having to go into Port of Spain or any country where I feel maybe this isn't a good time to be outside because of COVID. I could still come if the borders are open, or even when the borders open back up. And these services are here to put a lot of travelers' minds at ease. These services are going to be crucial.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so, because people, they gravitate towards what they're comfortable with. And something like this is going to make it very easy for them. And it's but we could go in and out of lockdown again for the next 2 years,
Until,
right?
correct, yeah.
And it could happen. So we want to be able to make sure that supply chain is easily set up. And Drop does that. And then the other one I wanted to share was
Yes.
ChefMate.
Chef made.
Yeah. And these guys are, what I like about ChefMate is and I don't mean to keep focusing on food. I am a food person, but
No, but they're doing it well. They're doing
they
it
are
really
doing
well.
well. And I love their marketing. I love the healthy tint that they've taken on this. The fact that, again, in our current climate, you don't have to be locked down with just eating bad food. You can have great, healthy, fresh made food delivered to your house. No risk involved. And what I love about what they do from a marketing perspective is it's very clean. Um, the imaging is good. Their social media is very sharp, like, from a Instagram and Facebook perspective. Um,
Yes.
and the quality of what they deliver is really good.
Right.
And these are the type of things that we need, right? Whereas, you talk about, everybody sort of packing on this COVID-15, sitting at home eating all the time.
Yeah.
But we still need to take care of ourselves in this type of environment. And, these guys do a great job with that. And, from an e-commerce business perspective, their model is solid.
Right.
Their marketing is good, the delivery is good, their ability to take payments online is solid, and and their customer service is really good. And we touched upon that before,
Right.
and that's all the time that I have been sort of traveling through, all the different islands, and I ask people why they don't buy locally, e-commerce, they are skeptical because of the service.
Right.
And so, like, you can employ all this lovely graphics and all the rest of it, but if you don't impart good customer service to people, they're not going to buy.
It's all for
And
naught.
it's super important. It's
Right.
really, really important. So, and that's what we talked about this before as well, where, okay, fine, we built, a beautiful website, we got all the payments fee sorted out, we got a good product, and then, okay, now what?
Right.
Where do we go? Where do we go next?
Right.
Like, what is our marketing plan? What is our plan for logistics or delivery or all the rest of it that goes with that? And it's equally as important as everything else, because you can't just build something and expect people to flock to it.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for saying that.
Yeah. And that's really where we want people to think about. And what's great about the Caribbean is that there are so many people that are invested in selling and marketing and positioning. There are a lot of companies that focus on that and social media. So again, like, we don't have to reach out to other jurisdictions that don't understand us.
Correct.
There are great companies like yourself that understand what it is to promote and market to our region. And it's, we have everything we need, I think is the message that I want to say there.
And to tack on to that, right? What is when you go around the world, because you're a well-traveled man, what is the one thing you don't have in your pockets anymore that all of the people traveling to the Caribbean, don't even think about? People, go ahead. I know you're about to answer. Go ahead.
Go.
I was gonna say the one thing that you people are no longer carrying around the world is cash.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. And, actually, personally, I hate cash. I never carry it. And as a business, if you don't accept cards, you're losing out, because
Big time.
because if you only accept cash, you're limited to whatever cash people have in their wallet.
Correct.
If you accept cards, you're unlimited, essentially, based on the card transaction.
Correct.
And I actively avoid places that don't accept cards.
Yes.
And because it's an inconvenience to me as a consumer. And yes, you're going to save a few percentage points if you only accept cash. But cash has a cost as well. So you need to understand what that cost is, or the opportunity lost.
Right.
I had a great conversation with somebody in a market stall about that in the Caribbean, and they're saying, well, cards are too expensive for me to accept. And I said,
Right.
well, I was going to buy this from you, but I'm not now because
You
I
have
don't. So how much did you lose based on how much you would pay on the card transaction? So, I
Wow.
think we have to get past that mindset too, in terms of saying, okay, well, you have to listen to what customers want, and be able to offer all methods of payment, because and if somebody's paying cash in a market scenario, somebody's going to be more inclined to barter with you in terms of getting a cheaper price because I'm paying cash.
Because you're paying
Like,
cash.
that's this old mindset mentality to, okay, I'm going to give you cash, so I should get something for cheaper.
What's the best price? Yeah.
Yeah. But you set a price on a card level, your average order value for accepting cards always, there's multiple, data to support the fact that if you accept cards, your price point is always going to be higher.
And what I want to add to that before we get over to the breakdown of how the credit card processing works.
Yeah.
People I don't think Caribbean people realize that everywhere in the world, when foreigners want to relax, they come to the Caribbean first. And if you want to have an unlimited pool of people, understand that foreigners are not coming with cash. They are coming with their credit cards. They are paying everything with credit cards. If they can pay a taxi with a credit card, if they can pay a grocery store with a credit card, because a lot of these credit card institutions, they give you back cash back, they give you points. So they're incentivized to use their credit cards. And if your business is not set up for credit card, the opportunity loss, as you said, is going to be huge. So Chris, just so we can keep it moving, give us a quick breakdown of the credit card processing slide that you have so that we can start to get into the questionnaire section.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you see the diagram here? Can you see the process?
I'm not seeing it right now, no.
No.
Seeing it now, yes, seeing it now.
Yeah, you can see it now? Okay,
Yeah.
great. So from that perspective, we always just like to use this diagram because it's an easy representation of what happens when you do a transaction online. And I'm a very visual person. So when you look at this, here, so between your website and First Atlantic Commerce is an integration, like a software integration, and that can happen in multiple different ways. So whether it is a plugin that you buy for Shopify or WooCommerce or Magento or whatever that might be, that has a connection to our what we call a payment gateway. And then once that person presses pay now, and all that credit card data comes to us, and then we route it through what's called a processor, which is a bit, it's effectively software that's owned by your bank. So wherever you have your e-commerce merchant account, what's called a processor, and the processor's job is to provide the connectivity to the card networks. So Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover, whatever that might be.
Right.
And they have certification here and high level of security to access those networks. And then it routes that transaction to the bank that issued the credit card that your customer is paying with on their site.
Right.
It will say basically, okay, we want to authorize capture funds on this card for X amount, and it will validate whether that card has that amount of funds left on the card. And if it says yes, then it will send all that data back through the network, through the card network, through the processor, through our gateway, and then we're going to say to the website, your website, yes, you can accept that transaction.
Right.
And then ultimately those funds will be deposited by the card networks to your e-commerce merchant account with your bank. And this is, and again, we talked about this the other day, like this network after us is a vast network. Like it's huge.
Right.
Like the processors and the Visa, MasterCard networks, and the issuing banks. So you could have, if somebody comes onto your website in Trinidad with a U.S. issued credit card, so that transaction will basically go from your website to our gateway to let's say whichever bank you work, let's say Republic Bank, and then that will go out to my credit card issuer in Bermuda, and then that's going to come all the way back through the processor, through our gateway, back to the website.
And that's within seconds.
Oh, milliseconds, yeah. I mean, that's like, this network is huge and fast and incredibly secure. And, that's why we like to talk about this, is the fact that, if people are asking about fees that are associated with authorizing credit card transactions online, the natural reaction is to say, oh, that's really expensive. I can't deal with that.
That 3%.
Yeah, 3%, and like our transaction fee, which is cents on the transaction, but it is a huge network that has millions and millions of dollars spent on it every year to make sure that it happens quickly and securely, and then you can get your funds deposited to your account in real time. So
wow.
That's, it's not just a justification of why we're here.
Right.
It's a justification of the entire network and everything that goes into making that happen for your website. So, and again, like before I joined FAC, I had no idea what this network was, the value of it, or anything like that. But once you get into the industry and you understand like everything that's behind authorizing that transaction on your website,
you understand.
It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. It's a massive network that has hundreds of millions of dollars spent on it every year, and millions of people involved in working on it to make it happen.
And you know what? And just to kind of highlight before we wrap this part up, like, people just need to understand that. I mean, it's hard to appreciate it because it happens so fast. You don't think that 3% is worth the transaction because it happens so fast and you can't see it. But it's important to know that all of this is happening in the background. So when you are told, it is a 3% fee or whatever the fee is, like, you understand why that transaction fee is the way it is. And for some people who think, 3% from the bank is too expensive, but then decide, let me just use PayPal as my processor and pay 5.4% per transaction. Listen, you're in good hands. Let's just put it that way. You're in good hands.
You're in great hands. And also, what you need to think about in that as well is the fact that you're going to pay wire fees on top of that. Like, if you use PayPal or something else outside of the country,
correct,
you're going to settle US dollars, and then you're going to have to wire that back in, and you're going to pay wire fees and maybe FX fees on top of that too.
Correct. And with our government reminding us that credit card fees are the largest leakage of foreign exchange, and unless that situation changes, we don't want a situation where they put an outright ban or they limit us severely with how much foreign exchange we could use on the credit cards. So we need to use things very sparingly.
Yeah, I would agree. And there's lots of great products and services that we can buy locally as well, right? So,
correct.
Sure, like there's always going to be things we want to buy internationally, and that's fine. But there are a lot of great things we can buy locally too.
Correct. Chris, thank you for showing us this diagram. I'm just going to bring you could close your screen share now.
Sure, hold on.
I'm just going to bring you back over.
Okay.
Perfect. So what we're going to do, Chris, we're going to take a quick 1 minute break. We're just going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors yet again, and we're going to give everybody some time to now drop your questions in the chat while we have Chris here, and let's get some of those burning questions on e-commerce answered, okay? So if you guys are here, thank you for tuning in and staying for us for this time. It's been an hour and 10 minutes so far. We love you for sticking around. Drop some hearts, drop some fireworks. You guys know what to do, but most importantly, drop your questions. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get into the Q&A session right after this.
Stay connected and entertained with broadband bundles. Stay connected and entertained with broadband bundles designed for you. With Flow starter and advanced plans, you can enjoy faster speeds to stream more of what you love. Get free access to the best shows, series, and movies with HBO Go, and connectivity on the go with free Flow Wi-Fi. Packages start from as low as $295 and no contract required. Visit discoverflow.co to sign up today. Flow, keeping you connected.
Sharing your goals, helping you find your place in the world. Eastern gratitude, God's holding your hand, leading the way, here for your needs, making sure that you succeed. Eastern's lending a hand, Eastern together, we're leading the way. Eastern Credit Union, leading the way.
All right, Chris. So we are back, and now it's time to get into the final segment of the show, and that is the Q&A part. All right. So I hope you guys have your questions ready. All right. So we're gonna get right into it. So we got our timer queued up, and let us start the clock. Perfect. All right, so the very first question coming in from social media, and this question is brought to us by the good folks over at BuzzPay. Question for you, Chris. So,
Yes.
I am not tech savvy, so digital anything is foreign language. Can I succeed with my business without e-commerce in 2020?
I would say no. It's one of these things where, even before 2020, business needs to be omni-channel, right? So you have a brick and mortar business and you have an online business. And even if your online presence didn't allow you to purchase, you still need that legitimacy of having a website.
Right.
So, if people are searching for something, you have to have a website. And
Right.
the website is going to be, just this anchor that tells people you're there and you're legitimate and you have something to sell. But now we go into, fast forward into COVID-19, your business may not survive without e-commerce. Because people aren't, for several months there, we weren't allowed to go anywhere.
Correct.
So it's like, if you were in a supermarket or a gas station, like, how did people purchase from you?
Correct.
Because you couldn't go into the physical presence. So, and so yes, you could have a presence and sell brick and mortar before, but now, if you're not enabled to be able to buy something from your business online, you are not well prepared to deal with the future going forward.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Chris, our next question coming in from social media. Now, guys, we have one more question before we get to the questions in the live chat. So just bear with us, but keep those questions coming in so we can run through them. All right. So this question is brought to us by the good folks over at Eastern Credit Union. Chris, the question is, what is the drawback of using a solution like PayPal or Stripe Atlas versus using FAC?
That's one of my favorite topics at the moment. We could do a whole session on this, actually.
I know. We need the short version.
Yeah. So PayPal is, you can use PayPal as an individual user in the Caribbean, like to pay for something or receive money.
Right.
As a corporate user, you cannot use PayPal in the Caribbean. And the simple answer to that is the fact that PayPal is a master aggregator of funds. And the only way they're able to do that is by having bank accounts in the countries that they provide the corporate services for.
Right.
So they don't have any corporate entities within the Caribbean, so they aren't able to have the corporate bank accounts in each country within the Caribbean to receive the funds, so they don't offer the service.
Right.
So that's why PayPal is not available. And whether I could be wrong, but I don't see that happening anytime soon because the region's too small to get PayPal's attention.
Right.
It just doesn't move the needle for them. Stripe Atlas. So Stripe Atlas is available. So basically what you do is you set up a paper company in Delaware, in the US, and that technically allows you to be able to accept payments by Stripe in the US in US dollars. So, I have my own concerns over that just generally, but the downsides of that is that you can only accept US dollars. You have to then repatriate those US dollars back into the Caribbean. So you're going to pay wire fees and FX fees. And if your target market is the Caribbean, most people are going to have a card that is locally denominated currency. So those card holders are going to pay an FX fee on buying from your site. So they're going to get an extra fee on your transaction from your site. And then as a business, as a region, then what we're doing is bleeding money out of our local economies into the US to then get less funds back into the region.
Right.
So I understand why people go with Stripe Atlas from an ease of setup.
Right.
But as a
long-term
strategy, it weakens us.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Chris, the third question coming over from social media before we dive into the live chat. Now, this question is brought to us by... hold on. I think this got cut off. You know what? Let's just jump right into the live audience. All right. So, let us go with Colin Benjamin. Thank you for joining us, Colin. So, Colin asks, Chris, from your experience, which types of online businesses tend to be more prone to fraud and which are less risky?
Good question. So what we have historically seen is that businesses like telco, utilities, high order value businesses like jewelry, travel, are more prone to fraud. And, travel has its quirks with it. High order value goods are often targeted because it's a quick hit.
Right.
Telco, because people are just trying to get their phones topped up quickly. So, so people will steal a credit card, top up all their friends' phone quickly. Utilities are the same. Like somebody will steal a credit card and pay the utility bill of all their friends or family.
6 months
quickly.
free electricity. Let's go.
Yeah, totally. So they are high. They are highly targeted. Especially within the region, and that is the nature of the beast for sure. There's lots of ways you can protect yourself from that.
Right.
And we have methods to help with that, but those are the big ones for sure.
Perfect. All right, so moving forward, we're going to fly through these ones. All right, so quick delivery ask. As you said, the bank's process is tedious. Since you as the company understand it better, can applications go through you and then go to our local bank? And I'm guessing they're talking about the merchant IDs.
Yeah, so what we do to facilitate that is make sure that companies are talking to the right person at the bank.
Right.
And, you know, there are a lot of conversations ongoing in terms of all the different banks, in terms of how do we make the onboarding process quicker and easier. So, you know, there are some challenges within the region where, you know, from a KYC, so know your client, or AML, like anti-money laundering procedures that the banks have to go through. There isn't a lot of digitized information to be able to quickly, right? So like they're on a lot of credit bureaus or things like that you would have in North America, for example. You know, in the Caribbean, we don't have a lot of those, right? That's why there is a manual process with that. So, and just to explain on that, so when you apply for an e-commerce merchant account, you're basically applying for a corporate account facility with a credit facility attached. And the reason for that is that when somebody makes a transaction on your website, they can charge back that transaction. So forcibly say, I didn't do that transaction for 180 days, 6 months after they did that transaction.
Wow.
They can go back to their bank and say, I didn't do that transaction.
Right.
And so that there's a risk of that for every single transaction that you do through your website for 180 days.
Wow.
Now, the data says that less than 1% of your transactions are going to have that happen to it.
Right.
But so the bank so when you apply for your e-commerce merchant account, that's what they're looking at. They're going to say, okay, what is your business? How do you do it? What are your, terms and conditions? What is your refund policies? Like, so they want to look at it and say, okay, well, it's like it's an underwriting process.
Right.
How much risk does your business present to me as a bank?
Right.
And that's they go through this process. And I've seen all sides of that process. So I've seen what the bank wants and why they want it. I've seen why companies that say, okay, well, I'm a startup. I don't have 3 years of audited financials.
Right.
So I can't provide that to you.
Right.
But I have a solid business plan and I have X amount of backing and all the rest of it. So it's a marriage between the two. But we're finding now that all the banks in the Caribbean are more experienced with e-commerce, and they understand the need for it now more than ever. So they're changing their policies and procedures to make it easier for companies to get online.
Thank God.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I'm saying, if you're struggling, to find who to talk to at your bank, come to us, because we know everybody to talk to at each bank in the Caribbean to get an e-commerce merchant account approved.
Perfect.
Because if you go, and we talked about this earlier, if you go into a branch, maybe a branch outside whatever capital, and say, I want e-commerce, that person's not going to know.
They're not going to know.
But no. But come to us, and we'll help you figure it out.
Perfect. Next question comes in from, I'm probably going to butcher the name. It's either Sachel or Satchel George, but I'm going to go with Sachel. Sounds better when I say it. Sachel asks, if you already have a website, can I just go to First Atlantic and set up an e-commerce service with my existing website? So I kind of think you answered that in the previous question with the process of going about getting a merchant account.
Yeah, I mean, I think it from a integration from your website into us. If you built the website yourself with a software developer, yes, we can work with your team to integrate to the gateway. That's not a problem.
Perfect.
Where it gets a bit more tricky is if you bought something off the shelf, and you don't have access to the code of the website,
Right.
then it becomes harder. But if you build it yourself and you have access to the code and you have a good software developer, and this is something that we're always keen to tell people is everybody has a friend that knows something about computers and software, and that is that's a danger zone when it comes to developing your e-commerce and integration to a payment gateway.
Right.
Like always make sure that you work with somebody that has done an integration to a payment gateway before,
Right.
or has built a website before.
Right.
Because it's that old adage, you buy cheap, you buy twice, and
It adds up.
yeah, and we have people that we recommend that can do this, but if you pick somebody that doesn't know what they're doing,
Right.
it can take a long
It's
time.
going to cost
and
you.
a lot more.
Perfect. Next question comes in from Nicholas Mendez. What advice would you give someone who wants to go digital right now, but is afraid because they're unlikely to get the traction to offset the monthly fees?
That's a great question, actually. So you have to you have to invest in the business. I guess is you have to believe in your business model, and with all startups, generally you're going to have a burn rate, right?
Right.
Where you have a set amount of capital that you are going to run through before you start making money. So you have to have a belief that what you're doing is required within the industry, and not everybody gets that right. But it's with all businesses, you're
It's
gonna
a risk.
you're gonna run at a deficit for a while, and nobody makes money from day one.
Right.
Like you're starting a business.
In the hole.
Nobody. Yeah, you are taking a risk, and you're gonna run a deficit for a while, and you have to have that ultimate belief that what you're doing and what you're selling is going to be needed by people, and if you don't have that, then don't do it.
Don't rush it. I would
Yeah.
add in try to run as lean as possible. So there are things that I would use for free when starting out, but I would make sure I would make sure I would have the money for my website fees, my payment gateway fees. I make sure to have that because I could use some other free tools and try to offset the costs so that I can have my business online and taking payments.
No, that's a great point, because what I think people don't do sometimes is add the processing, like the payment fees, into their pricing.
Correct.
So what is my cost of doing business? And my cost of business is not producing just the product or service. It's what does it cost me to sell
run.
it as well.
Right.
And that's a mistake that people make all too often, or overestimate what that is. So, if we break down the cost of like per transaction for FAC in the bank per product sold,
Mm-hmm.
The knee-jerk reaction is to be, well, that's too expensive. But if you actually run through it and do the math, and then you add that incrementally into the product of everything that you sell, then you're in a much better place.
Correct. Next question comes in from Abbas. We have about 3 minutes left of questions, Chris, so you have an idea as to how much questions we're going to try to cram in. So
Okay.
Next question is from Abbas. Abbas says, someone has a website already. It's pretty well laid out. How would they go about setting it up as an e-com website?
So my advice would be to, think payments first.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier. But then figure out what type of product or service it is and what platform, how interactive you want that platform to be, and
Right.
how you're going to sell whatever that is. Like, so is your major outlet like Instagram, or is it Facebook, or is it Twitter, or is it an actual website, or is it word of mouth, or you flyers, or whatever that might be? You need to figure out how that is going to get out to the initial audience. But then
That's a long-winded question because there's so many ways to integrate or set up your platform as ecom.
there is, yeah, and and then make sure it renders properly for your particular audience. Like, if you're selling something that is, more targeted from people to 18 to 25, if it's not rendered properly for mobile and social media, then you're done. But if you're selling to like my parents' generation, it's got to be a website or email or something like
Right.
that. So you have to figure out all those aspects of it, and then figure out how that connects to actually letting you get paid, because it could be beautiful. It could be a beautiful website. Your Instagram pictures could be amazing.
Right.
But if you don't enable the payment part of it properly, then it's a waste of time.
Perfect. Next question comes in from Kim. How long does the process take to set up, and what is required to apply for online payment services on average?
So the bank is going to ask you for basic information like your company, your business plan, if you've been running for a while, any sort of financials, and that could take, to apply for the e-commerce merchant account, it could probably take a couple of weeks, 5 to 10 business days. And then from an integration perspective, as long as you hire somebody that is experienced in integrating to a payment gateway, we've had people do it in a couple of days. But on average, we say, 5 to 10 business days.
Perfect. Next question comes in from Nancy. Nancy asks, what can banks do to make the barriers that would make someone choose Stripe Atlas easier for potential merchants? Well, I think you know where you're going to go with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the attraction to Stripe Atlas is the fact that the application process is actually easier.
Right.
And I understand that. And, the reason that Stripe Atlas is easier from an application perspective is that they aggregate their volume and risk over a much larger group of people.
Right.
So their actuarial science is basically, okay, well, we're going to add X thousands, hundreds of thousands of merchants, and it's going to be fine, because we know 1% of our merchant base is going to be a problem.
Right.
And the difference in the Caribbean is that we don't have any real aggregated accounts.
Right.
So maybe like WePay is maybe the only company in the Caribbean that is aggregating funds.
Right.
And so, the risk of each individual account to each individual bank outside of that is more significant. So, but the disadvantage of something like Stripe Atlas is the fact that you can only do US dollars. Your funds are flowing out of country. You got to spend money on wire fees. It's not that inexpensive. Last time I looked at it, it was just shy of 3% and 30 cents a transaction.
And that's in the US.
In the US, yeah. So you have to pay in US. So we obviously have some FX issues in the Caribbean right now. So yeah, on the surface, it might seem simpler to apply for the account, but in the long run,
It's actually damaging the Caribbean.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, this is our last question for the night. And this question comes in from Thruston. Thruston asks, how can a new or small business scale using e-commerce?
So a new business has a great advantage of not paying all the heavy costs of a brick and mortar business. So if you're a brick and mortar business, you've got to think about a physical space. You've got to think about physical products in that space. You've got to think about security, so locks on the doors, security cameras, security guards, securing the cash, limited hours of business.
Right.
So you could be, 9 to 5, and some of that is luck, right? Like who happens to be passing through your door that day.
Correct.
If you're going to a pure online business, the world is open to you.
Right.
Like it's literally open to you, and your business is open 24/7, 365. Like, so, my uncle will always say to me, he's an entrepreneur, is that like if you have a business that doesn't earn you money while you sleep, you're an employee. You're not and it's true, because you're stuck with this scenario that you can't sell constantly, even when you're sleeping. And that's a really important concept to it. And, in the Caribbean, we have a huge array of amazing businesses, amazing products, amazing services that we can sell all over the world. And if we restrict ourselves to a brick and mortar presence, we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Perfect.
It's great right now to be able to sell everywhere.
Perfect. Chris, that's it for the questions for the night. So before we wrap up and let you get some sleep, give us what is your closing words for the audience tonight?
I guess my closing words would be, don't rest on your laurels right now. Like we've had this, we've had this wake up call with e-commerce and online business. Don't feel that we're going to be in a position where everything's going to go back to brick and mortar, and life is going to go back to what it was, because it's not. And if you are a business that when this happens again, and you can pivot seamlessly into an online or e-commerce type scenario, you're going to suffer, because a lot of businesses have made that change now. And if you're not one of them, you really will suffer next time we have to do this.
And we're in the midst right now where we're under investigation for community spread, and that just happened as of yesterday. So, I posed a question to my email list. I'm asking everybody, now with the news of community spread and the investigation going on, is your business set up for e-commerce by the weekend?
Yeah, no, completely. And, the other message I want to give is this is not complicated, and it doesn't have to be expensive.
Yes.
Speak to like yourself or our company, and we can make this happen for you very quickly.
Chris, you have provided a world of information. I know this was a conversation me and you have been talking about having for months at this point.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you again for taking the time, coming in and speaking to our audience tonight. The information you gave us was invaluable. Let us know how we could reach you or the company for any more information on FAC, because I'm seeing a lot of questions that we didn't get to about FAC.
Yeah, so probably the best email address is bizdev@fac.bm. That is the easiest way to get hold of the entire team. That perspective, so that is the easiest way to get hold of us. Any of the banks across the Caribbean will know us because we're connected to them. But if you want to come to us, we're a good starting point. I think that is the message that I would like to give people. Like if you come to firstatlanticcommerce.com, there's a wealth of information on there. There's an FAQ section. and there's a contact us session on there. So if you feel like you're struggling on where to begin,
Yeah.
come to us, because we'll be able to connect all the dots.
Perfect. Chris, thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. You've been great. And audience, if you're still here watching us, please drop some hearts, fireworks. If you enjoyed tonight's episode with Christopher Burns from FAC on e-commerce tonight, if you enjoyed this episode and you learned a lot, again, drop some fire, drop some flames, give us some fireworks. And, again, I just want to thank you guys for joining us tonight on the show. Next week, we have one of the biggest social media personalities in the Caribbean right now, and that is Certified Samson. And we're going to be talking to you guys about how to become a social media personality in today's digital age. So that's going to be next week, Thursday, and that's going to be insane. Chris, thanks again for joining us. And me and you are going to pick up offline.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everybody.
Perfect. Everybody else, we're going to see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you guys have any questions, reach out to Chris, reach out to myself, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. Have yourself a wonderful night.